So I guess the first question I wanted to ask is, was it like difficult to make a movie about a website like exciting, which it was? It was like a really exciting film.
Listen, this was a difficult movie, you're right, but not because it's about a website, because it's not about a website. I don't want anyone to think that this is kind of like a, Hollywood doing a Mattel toy tie-in or anything. It's not about a website. It is about the things that are as old as storytelling itself. Friendship, loyalty, jealousy, power, class, all set against kind of the cauldron of social life at college. Yes, at the center of this is the guy who invented something that has now changed the world. Something that's, it's got 500 million members, you can see from our poster, which means that if it were a country, it would be the third largest country in the world. But the themes of the story are absolutely classical. It's the same stuff that Aeschylus would be writing about, same stuff that Shakespeare would be writing about, Paddy Chayefsky. It was just lucky for me that none of those guys were available and I got to write about it.
Now, this is, I think, the third project in a row you've done about real people, because you did the Farnsworth invention,
Charlie Wilson's War,
and now this. Is this did you want to start doing?
No, as a matter of fact, I'll be honest with you. I have done a lot of nonfiction lately, and there's some more nonfiction coming up with something else. And as great a time as I've had doing this movie, as great a time as I had doing Charlie Wilson's War. And this movie, I have to say, The Social Network has been the kind of thing you dream about from the first moment I signed up until now when people are starting to see the movie. But every time I do nonfiction, I always swear I'm not going to do nonfiction anymore. Just because when you're doing fiction, you can do anything you want. There's no fidelity to the truth. With nonfiction, your hands are tied a little bit more. But this movie, it's more than a true story. It's three different versions of a true story. What happened was there were two lawsuits brought against Facebook at roughly the same time. And the plaintiffs and the defendant and witnesses all came into a deposition room. They all swore an oath to tell the truth. And three completely different versions of the same story came out in deposition testimony. So rather than pick one of those and decide that's the truth, that's the story I'll tell, or pick one of those and decide that's the juiciest, I'll run with that, I decided to embrace the idea that there was a Rashomon quality, that for some reason three groups of people saw the exact same thing three different ways with consequences that were epic. And so everybody's point of view gets seen in this movie.
Right, that's another thing I was going to ask. Did the movie change your opinion? Because in some of the things you've written, you've had a very, I don't want to say low opinion of like the blogosphere and the internet, but you've had kind of a low opinion of the blogosphere and the internet.
I understand. I understand what people would think that. First of all, as far as that goes, having a low opinion of the internet and the internet and the blogosphere are a very, very big place. There's some sensational stuff on the internet and the blogosphere. And there are very, very good things that wouldn't have happened if it weren't for the internet and the blogosphere. That said, you mentioned the Farnsworth invention, and which for people who don't know is a Broadway play that I wrote about an epic struggle between Philo Farnsworth, who's credited with inventing television, David Sarnoff, who's the young president of RCA. But the one thing that these two had in common was that they had a utopian vision for television, that it was going to be something that brought us closer together, that would end fear and ignorance, even end war. These were the exact things said about what the internet was going to do. It was going to bring us closer together. Once we were all connected to each other, everything was going to be better. I think that I worry that in a lot of ways that we're not paying close enough attention to, it's pushing us farther apart and not bringing us closer together. I worry that the anonymity of the internet and the lack of sincerity involved in social networking on the internet, because really when you think about it, social networking on the internet is to socializing what reality TV is to reality. I worry about those things. I pass no judgment on the 500 million people who disagree with me, who clearly love this. Mark Zuckerberg, who founded Facebook, is obviously a genius and a visionary. So my hat's off to all of them. But you know, I'll be the old fogey in the room who says, you know, I miss writing letters and calling your friends. I took all that time answering
it's
one
cool.
question.
Is there any way I can convince you to say you're watching I'm Aaron Sorkin and you're
Yeah,
watching
sure.
Frequency TV?
I'm Aaron Sorkin. You're watching Frequency TV.